Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel. Tonight I'm going to be talking about Critical Role Mighty Nine Reunited Part 1 Unfinished Business. This was a rough one to get through. I had forgotten that it was Mighty Nine, and then I don't know. Everything in the beginning was dragging for me. The "Where are they now" bits. So very often we talk about Matt DMing and choices that he makes, and I feel like this episode especially was very heavy in choices that are made for the audience. And I have to wonder if he would have done the same if this was the home game, rather than just saying bing bang boom, we get straight to the fight with the storm giant on the ship. Wave hand, you guys have been doing whatever, here we go, we're in. It seemed like a lot of that, the prologue of the prologue, was for the benefit of the audience, and also, I guess in some ways, for the players to get back into their characters, which for Travis, I don't know, was long enough. Because there were moments where I kind of laughed, and I was like, I don't know if he knew he was going to be playing Ford today. Like, part of me wonders if he showed up and they're like, oh, we're filming Mighty Nine today. He's like, what? The costume choice obviously precludes that from being reality. But just some of the intense moments of him scrolling through D&D Beyond and being like, I think I can do that, or I think I have something, was funny to me. Veth's adventuring camp. We got to see a little bit of the setup. And Bo, much respect. She was a little mean about it, but attaining that work-life balance, that's important. I admire. You know, Rose, you say that you thought the camp was cute, and something just occurred to me, and I don't know if I thought about it during the episode or not, but it occurs to me now. There's something about that camp that reminds me of Addams Family Values. And now I can't get the image of Laudna going to that camp as taking the Wednesday Addams role. Anyway, what ifs, right? Yasha being a Pinterest wife was a little out of left field, but also sort of perfect. And I don't know. I was both a little, and oh no, that makes sense. Yes. The prelude, the permission for the horny episode that we were going to be getting. Uh, Certainly laid in that ground in that first few moments with them. Jester and Kingsley giving Ford shit about Stone's Throw shipping, I thought was mean and unfair. I liked it. I support this name choice. Although all the shade Kingsley was throwing on it was accurate and hilarious. So, again, another reason to be for it, really. I mean, can it be? It's not any worse than what can Brown do for you? You know? I like that they were keeping the Kingsley might lead a mutiny. And him being friendly with the Powder Monkey definitely put that in there more. Caleb as I almost want to say substitute, but they said guest lecturer. And then Gnome being like, you're overly dramatic. Was funny. And I got a little bit of the last scene in The Martian, when it shows Mark being an instructor at NASA. There was a huge part of that I rang true for that moment, where Mark in The Martian is like, you solve one problem and you solve another. And if you solve enough of them, you get to come home. Any questions? And the whole room, erupts. We don't get quite that moment with Caleb, but a similar sobering reality check message was nice. I thought what else are you going to do as a wizard who has a small apartment in a city, but set up your mansion inside your house, and probably in the wardrobe like they've done before? He didn't get to that level of specificity, but to me, that's probably where he sets it up. If for no other reason than to call back to that one time, But 56 minutes into the episode, we get our inciting incident. Ukutoa sees Ford, and Sam ruining the scene with his flask and mainly the popcorn. And throwing the popcorn seemed more entertaining than what was happening at the table. And I don't know if that was for everybody at home or just at the table, or if that was just Sam being Sam. And it seemed to throw Matt off a little bit. Because I felt like he had been letting the players have their fun and do their things, and he wasn't rushing anybody. And as soon as he gets into the meat of what he wants to be doing, what this 1-2 shot is going to be about, Sam just derailed it. I don't know if I would say Sam didn't want to be there, Snoopy, but his "I'm gonna troll everyone at the table" was definitely seemed to be turned up to 11. Uh, um, the lightning strike from the evil storm giant was sobering and frightening for the players. And that is not a textbook storm giant. I checked. Matt has tweaked it in some way. Yeah, Rose, storm giants, yeah. I think this is a bit of a payoff to the rumor that they heard when they took the ship northward into the ruins of Aor, when they were going up there, and they heard that the storm giants were all in a uproar and being a problem for shipping. And we thought that eventually a storm giant would come to confront Ford. We were under the belief that they would be looking to stop Uk'otoa, not help Uk'otoa. But, you know, kudos to Matt for playing against type there. And then there's Taliesin. And playing Kingsley and the Blood Hunter. And he ignites his right. And he says, I take way too many points of damage for that. I just nodded. Yes. Yes, you did. We see that Kingsley's a swashbuckler. And not only is Kingsley a swashbuckler, Taliesin has been able to kit him out with all of the gear that you could dream about wanting and having as somebody who plies the ocean waves. He has something that gives him a swim speed. I don't know if that's a ring or boots. Or no, the cap of water breathing I don't think gives you a swim speed. It just lets you breathe underwater. And the folding boat, which I thought was an excellent choice. I was a little sad Taliesin didn't take the opportunity to say, I'm the captain now. Just to, twist the knife a little bit into Ford. And to give a little more weight behind the he's gonna be a mutiny. And Rose, he so totally did out-captain him. It was I felt bad for Travis. Like, oh man. Yeah, so bad. All the way, start to finish the episode. So bad. And just reminds me of all the media you can see where the competent person is stuck under the idiot. And you could totally make an Office-like documentary of the 9 heroes. With Ford, of course, being Steve Carell. Marius would be Dwight. Jester would be Pam, I guess. Kingsley would be. Well, anyway, getting off on a tangent now. And I think it was Sam said that Kingsley was so much cooler now. And I'm like, yeah, that's because he's probably more rogue than Bloodhunter now. But yeah, Jester making the Jester choice of I'm not going to heal myself or anyone else. I'm going to inflict wounds. A 7th level inflict wounds. And I think it was Sam was like, why is 7th level? And she's like, well, he's really big. I'm like, no, that's legit. Did 54 damage. So she did a total of like 65 damage because the Storm Giant took half or none of her Hellish Rebuke because Storm Giants are resistant to cold damage, and this one might be immune. But that is still about a 7th of a regular Storm Giant's health. 6th or a 7th. Just by herself. In that first round. So, if Matt didn't mess with the hit points and he's just messed with some of its attack powers, some of its attack abilities, it'll be dead in a round or two. Maybe stretched out to 3, depending on what the Scions are doing and what that wizard can do. Or Warlock, or whatever it's statted out to be. They were calling it a wizard, or a mage, so that's what I'm calling him out as. They get to shore. I loved Orly. Basically, okay, I'm going to take a nap. And just into his shell. That was funny. But they finally get to the intro. And I gotta say, I really, really missed that intro. The new one does not have the energy of that one. Yeah. I was just like, damn, I missed this. Like, everything up to that point, I was like, oh, why can't we just have Bell's Hells? And then that song played, and I was like, no, okay. This is why we need this. Come back from break, and we get the sendings. Veth, Caleb, and Bo. And the highlight of why, if we had teleportation, you could go anywhere, do anything at any time with anyone. Yeah, I was super jealous of them just boop, 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 all over the place. I loved Yasha trying to send to Caduceus. And it was a reminder, like for me, I was just like, yes, tell me he's going to switch and play Caduceus. No, okay. And the healer shade also continued. Yeah, you could have someone teach healing. I should reach out to Caduceus. So good. And bless Taliesin for giving us the, oh hey, moment. It was good. They decide that instead of trying to teleport to the jungle, they would teleport to the gates, the wing gates, and then fly. Matt, I think, felt bad for not having labeled the map how he thought it was labeled, and there was some confusion about that. But I don't think 12 miles would have gotten them that far, which is what you'd get at a fast pace flying as an eagle. If that, because I think it's only a third faster. Whereas if you give them 12 miles an hour, it's 50% faster. But for flying, I don't think that's necessarily impossible, because at a fast pace on the ground, you're running, jogging, walking, running, jogging, walking, or just jogging and then walking as a rest. And then you're sitting down and eating, drinking, whatever. When you're flying, you just fly higher and then just coast. Fly higher and then coast. So I think it's easy to argue that you could do 50% over your speed. Because 80 feet is 8 miles an hour. But they decided they're going to teleport Eagles. Ford is going to leave Kingsley. And Kingsley's like, I know where you live. I'm going to take all your shit. Ford comes back and gets him. And then Kingsley sees the giant and tries to get Ford's attention. And whenever they're riding giant eagles, I can't help but have the rescuers down under in my head. I think it's down under. Is it just the rescue? I'm pretty sure it's down under with the eagle and the kid flying on the eagle. But when Travis is like, because Talison's talking about turning his head, and he's like, oh, you're going to lose a hand. I just was thinking about Keyleth and the rock when she was trying to feed it, and it like bit her hand. And Matt making the comment that this is a horny episode, and that's saying something. I guess what finally got him was the Kegel thing, which why as many times as that happened, as he was turning into an eagle, I don't remember them ever using that, and it's like right there. I think maybe because Liam used his own names for his forms when they were naming him in his forms, like Capeleb. That was Liam that said that. But yeah, I will say Matt's handling of the jungle encounters, moving through the jungle, textbook adventure writing, and made me lament even more the hour we lost at the beginning. Because come across the campsite. And this was also very evident in my brain because I was like, no way that they made that time. Because they were talking about having to travel a day. And an hour as a bird is not a day. But I think Matt expected them to teleport to the jungle. And yeah. But we find a wrecked campsite. And Marisha rolls a natural 20 for a total of 36 on her investigation check. And Matt can't believe it. Is floored by it, since 30 is impossible. And each sort of rank DC is generally 5. So, if 30 is impossible, 35 is unthinkable. Tells her that it's been there for 50 years. She finds a potion of superior healing, I think is what it was, and scraps from a notebook. Matt prefaced before he handed over those scraps, because you rolled a 36. I don't think the DC was that high to find those. I think it was probably 20, with the healing potion being higher. Because the scraps of the journal are clues. They're important. And the reason why I say it was classic adventure design and great sort of DMing is doesn't matter where they land, how they get there, the first thing they're going to run into is this campsite. Which is also why I was like, did we have to go through that whole thing before? This is perfectly written to be Ford lost the gem, you guys have all gotten together, now you're here, boom, and we're in. So, I don't know. The next thing that they run into, again, excellent adventure design from Matt, statue of the Wild Mother. And I could hear Stephen Colbert when he played with him on the Red Nose Day, and Matt giving him a magic item, and Colbert saying, that's going to be important later. As they're like, oh, it's a gem. Ooh. And there's some debate about taking it. And Matt sort of assuages them of this isn't looting because the statue basically gives it to Ford. He doesn't have to pry it out. He just touches it and it comes out. Which also was a nice balm for him, since he interpreted the augury read and everything, and the Uk'otoa coming in as him losing the connection to the Wild Mother. And I think if Ford is going to have an arc over these two, it is going to be recommitting to the Wild Mother, or at least finding his own connection without Caduceus, because so much of Ford's relationship with the Wild Mother, he sort of had Caduceus as a crutch. And I think this adventure might help him sort of find that. Find it without him, if that makes sense. They meet a monkey, and there's some consternation and frustration that no one can talk to the monkey. And I was like, gosh, if only Caduceus were here. But Jester feeds it, which is probably the last thing you want to do. I thought Matt, like, the players' pets, Matt tends to be a little more subdued in his role-playing as the pets. They almost never do anything that's annoying or that calls attention to them, or they tend to just be sort of in the background. And with this monkey, it matches everything I've ever seen on the Gibraltar macaques, I think they are. And the monkeys in India that just steal stuff. They run through the market. They'll knock over tables. They jump on stuff, take it, and run. They're a nuisance. And, feeding them or being nice to them doesn't earn you a friend. It earns you many more hands out. I greatly enjoyed Bo's natural one and finding the spores, which poison everybody else except her, because she's a monk. Interesting moment there, though. And I don't know if it's because Travis was trying to remember and then trying to find the ability to spend 5 points of his hit point pool to cure poisons. But he didn't bother curing Jester. She had to cast Lesser Restoration on herself. Which I also think is hilarious, that she has more of the healer spell loadout in this little 2-shot, just because Caduceus isn't here. And which is also why Veth saying, "Oh yeah, I should reach out to Caduceus," was so good. And Sam's sitting right there. Sam can see, if he wanted to, what her prepared spells are. So he probably knows that she's loaded out with the restoration, mass cure wounds, the healing spells. So yeah, I think I enjoyed the side stuff more in this episode than the actual content of the episode. Now that I'm sort of going through this with you guys, which is not always the case. It's rarely the case, especially with Sam, because Sam tends to trigger my annoyance because I feel Matt's, you know, I don't even know if Matt is annoyed by it. But just the disruptive player. Will you just knock it off? You know. But I've had players that are disruptive at the table, and I haven't done anything to stop them or said anything. You just, when you're the DM at the table in the moment, you just kind of tune it out, which I think is what Matt usually does with Sam. And just move on. Because usually, if you try to call it out, you're calling attention to it, number one. And now you're stopping your own flow, you know? And it can open a can of worms if you try to confront someone at the table in the moment, where they could get defensive. Other players could pile onto them. Yeah, will you shut up? We're trying to do something here. And being the DM and starting that tends to initiate a pile-on. So it can be tricky confronting people at the table in the moment. It's usually easier to do it afterwards and be like, hey, stop that. But I think the sort of unspoken rule is, if Sam feels there's dead air, or if he gets bored, or if he sees that someone else at the table is getting bored, he will do something. And there's an implicit permission, if not explicit permission, to do so. Just because it can keep the energy of the show up. And sometimes when you're doing a show, you need that. Whereas if you're at a table, I don't know that they would be doing a lot of that stuff in the beginning anyway, if they were just at home. I do believe that that first bit was for the audience benefit, as well as to ease the players back into their roles. But yeah. They find the temple ruin, and Matt giving some interesting narration on leading up to it. The stepped nature of the terrain that they found. I was like, oh, there's a ziggurat. There's a pyramid. That they didn't bother to go into. And then when they actually found it, the fact that there's basically a clearing around it, but the canopy of the jungle is reaching over. I was like, oh, well, there's a clue that you're probably in the right spot. Bo rolling the natural one and being punished for her dope monk shit, I have mixed feelings about. Mostly because I have mixed feelings about natural ones sort of punishing people. Rules as written, she shouldn't have had to roll for anything because monks can wall run. How tall is the tree? Matt has said that they're about 40 feet tall. She can get all the way to the top of a tree if she wants to, without rolling anything. So, I don't know. Also, the idea that 5% of the time, every time you roll the d20, it's not just you fail, it's you're being punished. I don't particularly care for. And I say that, but even though I did enjoy her natural one on the survival check, leading to a natural hazard. But I kind of view that differently, as it's sort of you're leading the group. What you do happens to everybody. And there's nothing to say that people in the group couldn't say I am aiding her to give her advantage, to blunt the possibility of a natural one. But no one did, and they usually don't when they're doing these. And that's just a table idiosyncrasy. But Veth scouts the ruin, and using the clue that they found in the journal about the suns being bad, Sam says, I don't stand on the stones. And to Sam's credit, when Matt was like, well, give me an athletics or acrobatics check to climb up this thing. And he's like, I don't have to. I got spider climb. And he's like, okay. I was like, see? And the giant has been in their periphery the entire time. And they've been aware of it, one member or another. And it crashes through the opening as they are rushing in to try to set up their ambush. Part of me thinks that this is not where they need to be. That they need to go to the ziggurat that they found, or what we're climbing over. I could be wrong. In terms of a one-shot, it is easier if they just get to the place. I don't know. Yeah, enough setup, more go-go, yeah. The reason I say that is because I don't see how the fight against the giant and the scions is going to be 3 hours. A whole other episode. It will be the first part of the episode. Depending on how many backups the creature has, it will be 48 minutes to an hour long of a fight. Maybe the whole first half. If I were them, I would try to get the scions and or the giant to touch some of the sun iconography. Um, I think we've been given enough information leading up to this that uh, this is an area of the Wild Mother, and Caduceus' story placed another hero of the Raven Queen in this area. And the last time they were in these jungles, is that where they found his parents? Scratch that. That's where they found his parents. Petrified. But that's near here. So to have another shrine of the Wild Mother, which a secret or letting something be forgotten often is more safe than building up a shrine around it. And I think it is interesting in the different approaches that the Wild Mother and Dawnfather have in protecting or setting up their locks, as it were. The Dawnfather has the Sun Tree, which is supposed to be protecting the ziggurat that Whitestone is built over. He's got the big cathedral in Zadash with, the big lock for the Chained Oblivion. That Oban was trying to break. And the Wild Mother just lets the jungle consume the location, lets it sink beneath the waves. It'll just be forgotten and sort of trust to, ensures, however you want to come at it, that the natural things in the area will prevent interlopers. Which is why I think there's more to that, potentially more to that monkey. And I kind of wonder if we're going to see some version of the Hadozi show up. Or Grung. Because I don't think Matt has had Grung in his games yet. So a troop of monkeys who have been evolved by the Wild Mother to protect her temple would simply be a much nicer way to add them lore-wise to your world than what they had to issue the errata over. And would also be sort of in keeping with what we saw with what Abria did in the jungles on Taldore, where basically it was all, animal races, Loxodon, or Pachyodon, as they called them on Taldore, which I still think is a better name for them. I don't remember if we had Icefura, but Tabaxi were there. I think we saw some lizard folk. But yeah. So dropping some Hadozi in here would be interesting. But the episode ends with the giant coming in. And I think we're going to pick up basically right there, roll initiative. The map may be on the table already when we start, although probably not, because that would get in the way of the announcements. But I could see them doing the announcements, Matt they go start the roll the intro, and Matt could go get it, or as soon as it comes back, roll initiative, and then he goes and gets the map. Because there has to be a map in this. We called that this, if they ever did do a one-shot, or the first one-shot they did, would be about Uk'otoa, because it was just a huge unfinished plot thread. I am a little perturbed about Kingsley being 17th, about them all being 17th level, honestly. I think when we left them, they were only 14th or 15th level. I don't remember them reaching 17th. I could be wrong. But, yeah. It just seems like Matt has something in store, and for them to survive it, they need to be 17th level. They need to be tier 4 to deal with this. And it just sort of reminded me that the pandemic sort of robbed us of a lot of campaign 2. And they had to get to launch in campaign 3 because they had, merch and tie-ins and stuff all coming down the pike that, by this date, this is what we got to be doing. So, I don't know, it was just another reminder of that. Yeah, Rose, it was nice to see them all again. Yeah, I think I don't know. It's hard to say like which group I like more, because I think I like different characters of the different seasons more. Like I think my top 3 are probably Grog, Laudna, and Caleb. And not necessarily in that order. I think Caleb is probably number 1. But yeah. It will be interesting to see how Bell's Hells are different. Although arguably, maybe they won't, because we sort of crossed the bridge of them picking up the hero mantle and taking responsibility for things. So we might not see any sort of effect. Because I think the Mighty Nine were affected when they did the one-shots for Vox Machina, and especially after the Versus match. And we still have yet, I think the Mighty Nine still probably reign as the best team, because I don't think Bell's Hells has really reached anywhere close to that level of sort of planned teamwork. They don't have the combos. They don't know each other's abilities the way Mighty Nine did. Or Vox Machina, but Vox Machina couldn't plan to save their lives at all. And Mighty Nine actually, made an effort. Kudos for Travis being the captain, I guess. Where this time, Travis isn't Grog, and he's not Ford. Chetney is devious, has his own plans, but is not really plan for the group or take charge type. So I don't think we'll ever get that. And Orem, I think Orem's arc right now is becoming a leader. Yeah. I just realized I'm talking a lot more about Bell's Hells and not this episode. But I mean, I'm kind of talked out on the episode. And I didn't think that I would make it almost an hour. I thought I'd be done after like 25 minutes. But thanks for hanging out, sticking with me. Part of me okay, so there's a few outcomes of next episode. They defeat the Giant and Scions and get the crystal back. And we have a debate about how to secure the temple and what protections to put into it. And that becomes our sort of end on the episode. They fail to stop the crystal from being put in, but still defeat the bad guys in that moment. So this means the Mage Scion gets in, puts the crystal in, Uk'otoa is going to be released, but they wipe out these guys here at this temple, which becomes essentially a Pyrrhic victory for Uk'otoa. But Uk'otoa is released, we end the episode, and that becomes the next one-shot for the Mighty Nine. Much like how the search for Grog became the search for Bob for the next one-shot. The other option is they fight Uk'otoa in this at the back half of the episode. So the fight with the Giant and the Scions goes quickly. It's over in 1 or 2 rounds. They open the lock. Uk'otoa is freed. Mighty Nine have to go find him and fight him and cage him again. I think that's a lot for one episode. So I think they fight him and something else is revealed about the temple and securing it for the future, and or replacing the other locks to help seal him away for good. this time. So we'll see. December 1st is when the next airs. No episode this Thursday. And Ford frees him because he's evil. Yeah. Fair. I'm going to be probably taking next Tuesday off. Monday is going to be a crazy busy night for me, and I'll probably need a night off next week. But we'll see you the following Tuesday after that to discuss the second part of this and lament no Bell's Hells. Until then, guys, take care of yourselves and each other.